Oh, I didn't see you there. Welcome to my review of Lily Allen's newest album, No Shame. Have you ever had one of those moments where you're kind of nonchalantly going about life, and then you bump into one of your old friends who you haven't seen in a while, and you have that moment of giddy excitement, and then it only gets better because they actually take you out for coffee and you guys get to spend the next 2 hours catching up? That's how I felt when I was listening to this album. It was a real treat. And it's so much of a treat that I recommend that everybody listens to this album at some point. But before you go into it, let me warn you, this album is not for the faint of heart. Yes, while it still has Lily Allen's charismatic sarcasm throughout, it's definitely a 180 from the stuff that we have been accustomed to hearing from the artist. And instead of a continuously juxtaposition pop album, this definitely has more of a soul-searching vibe. It's been a while since we've heard anything from Lily Allen, about 3 years in fact, and a lot has happened in that time. And it's really cool to see an album that addresses all of the massive changes, in an artist's life that happen kind of behind the scenes that fuel the creativity that goes into their music. And man, this album puts everything on display, front and center, and there really is no shame about it. And that's what I think is so dang refreshing about this album. And I think because of the severity of the situations that were kind of going behind the scenes, Lily Allen has been very open about the fact that she was really disappointed in how her last album, Sheezus, turned out, both commercially, and how she was not exactly excited about it as coming from a creative perspective as an artist, as well as all the crazy stuff that was happening in her family life and her divorce. She's kind of been talking about these things in interviews over the last few years, and just to see how that affects her now and affects her music, it's really, really interesting. And the first thing I noticed that I would like to talk about that's kind of a shift in how she's presenting herself as an artist is the fact that there are actually two cuts of this album, and they kind of waffled back and forth as to which cut was going to be on the main platforms, like on streaming, for Spotify and Apple Music. I'm pretty sure you can still buy either the clean or the explicit version of the album, but I'm really glad that even though they were waffling back and forth originally, they chose to go with the clean version to be the way that this album was presented to the mass public. And when you're dealing with subject matter that is really deep and very personal, it can come across as kind of brash and brazen when you use a lot of language, or harsh language, or even aggressive lyrics when you're discussing those types of topics. And so it can kind of give the wrong impression. And so I really think that Lily Allen wanted to take us on this journey with her and tell her story. And so the fact that they went with the clean, I think it just adds another level of what makes this album special. The second thing I want to talk about is the incredible diversity on this album. Not only from all the variety of instruments and synthesizers that are used, but also Lily Allen's vocal range. When I think about Lily Allen, I don't necessarily think about crazy high and crazy low notes, but man, she hits them, and she hits them a lot in this album. And I think that's really, really cool to see. But also, a lot of the people that she features on the album are very different and add the R&B and the reggae vibes to her, more ballad type soundwriting. And so, in order of appearance, there's Giggs, Burna Boy, and Lady Chan, who are used to just kind of add a little bit of different flavor to the album very successfully. And I also think it's really cool to see, the fact that it represents the UK as a culture. The UK culture is very diverse now, and so to see this all coming on to a UK album is really cool. And I think the variety of the instruments and the synthesizers that are used definitely effectively portray the emotional journey that Lily wants to take us on, right? Because it starts off really high, kind of dips down low, and she ends on another really high note. And I think successfully, the way that she's able to do that is because she's not afraid and has no shame to get down to the basics and really deconstruct, the sounds that you're hearing on her album. And so when you get to those slow, meaningful ballads, it's just her voice and a piano, or it's just her voice and, a singular melody going behind her, because she really wants to make sure that you're paying attention to the lyrics and understanding what she's trying to say. So I think that was done very, very well. I actually cried, not once, not twice, but 3 times listening to this album. It was crazy. And I have not personally been through a lot of the things that Lily Allen talks about in this album, and like with the divorce and like having kids and stuff. I don't personally relate to that, but the fact that she was able to, make me feel what she was feeling so well, to the fact that I cried over that situation, wow. I was blown away. The fact that she is able to write songs on this album from the perspective of not only herself, that addresses her own concerns in the situation, but that of her kids and that of her ex-husband, is something I have never personally seen or heard in this genre. Like, that is crazy. She really, I think, is breaking new ground when it comes to what can be portrayed in pop music. I think the only kind of maybe problematic territory that we can get into in this album is towards the end of the album. I think two of the songs, let me see, they're called My One and Pushing Up the Daisies. I think they're too similar, and they either should have been combined just for the sake of continuity, or, honestly, I would have, if I had to choose between one, I maybe would have cut My One, just because I feel like it's not quite as lyrically in-depth as the other one, and it doesn't offer quite as much. And I also feel like their sound, believe it or not, I almost felt like it was ripped from her last album, Sheezus. And since we've already discussed how she felt about that creatively, I was just kind of surprised that she put similar lyrics and sound from that album into this new album. So if she maybe wanted to be like, this is how I wanted that album to be like, I mean, it makes sense, but I think that's maybe the only criticism I would have of this album. So those are my general overarching thoughts about No Shame. Have you listened to the album? What did you think about it? Did you like it? Do you find it interesting how much different it is from her previous work? And now, after seeing this review, maybe you're gonna go give it a shot if you haven't listened to it before, but man, you gotta be prepared. The ending of Apples, man, I ugly cried. Like, it was bad. Like, I was like, I'm so glad that I'm alone in my house for this, because, man, the waterworks did not stop for a couple minutes, and I had to pause before I went on to the next one so I could actually listen to what it was saying. It was bad. It was bad. So be prepared. But still, definitely, it's really enjoyable, and it has a lot of catchy tunes too. Like, they'll be stuck in your head for days, and there is a lot of positivity on the album as well. So yeah, definitely comment your thoughts down below. Let me know what you thought. Are you gonna go see her on tour? Maybe, if you are a Lily Allen fan. And as always, I'm really excited and looking forward to talking to you next time.